This conference will now be recorded.
All right, well, welcome. This is SHE01's 2019 Facility Plan with the State Construction Department, and we will introduce ourselves first.
Hi, I'm Raj Dami. I'm the accounting analyst here. My role in the facility plan so far is I just kind of help everybody out with a little bit of everything. Right now, Amber and I are kind of assuming Charlie's role because he's moved on to Plat 1. So.
Yep. Amber Leach with planning, and my role is to work with the district on the documentation for today's facility plan meeting.
Troy Decker Planning, my job is quality control, make sure we abide by all state statutes, rules and regs of the commission and facility planning process to make sure we capture the correct data so that we can report to the commission and select committee and make sure everybody has voice within the process.
Hi, I'm Paul Severson. I'm here to provide support to Bob Herzog, your regional project manager. I provide leadership, coordination, and calibration to the project management team so that we can provide as equivalent service to all 48 districts across the state.
Hello, this is Bob Herzog. I am the regional project manager for the Northeast and specifically for your particular district, and I handle basically everything you got going on out there, from your major maintenance to your projects to your security projects, whatever comes down the line.
All right.
Excellent.
I'm Jeremy Smith. I'm the business manager for Sheridan County School District #1, and I think all of you before.
And Pete Kilbride, Superintendent SHE01. So meeting you guys all for the first time.
Yeah, well, congratulations, welcome, and we look forward to meeting you in person.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and turn off our video camera because sometimes we have some streaming difficulties, but we really like that drink you have right there. So if you want to keep yours on, you.
Sorry, guys. It's
Yeah.
my ice splash of pink lemonade, my afternoon delight. There you go.
That was looking really, really good right there. I wish you wouldn't have removed it. Let's see. Raj, we don't have you. D-A-H-M-I, right?
D-H-A-M-I.
Okay. Sorry. What's your title again?
Accounting analyst.
Okay.
Whatever you want it to be honest. Chief looking
Well, we're using it in whatever way we can, buddy. All right, well, we're going to go down through this. Obviously, we have Amber working really hard with you school districts so that we can take care of all the formalities. And then when we get together, obviously, there's, 5 of us, there's 2 of you, so 7 of us. So we try to really spend time on that, which we need to talk about, and the updating the database and stuff happens before we even start the meeting. So with that, just a couple things. We have had the governor's office and some individual legislators request.
That a little bit. Can you center that a little bit? We're kind of pulled, your screen's pulled over way to the right, so we're missing some of the stuff on the left of the screen.
That's interesting. Ours is centered. I could do something like that, but yeah, ours is perfectly centered.
Wow.
So yours is kind of off.
Ours is off to the, if you're looking at the page, we're seeing the right side plus blank and missing most everything on the left. Let me.
I wonder, and your camera's on. Once, are you seeing the video also? The camera?
No, the camera's off. We're looking at just the just your desktop view.
Huh, that's interesting. We've never had that before. You're unique.
What if you maximize that on your screen? Does that take care of it?
We're gonna
try that.
Try here and see. No.
No.
Come on.
Interesting.
That's weird.
Well,
I'm just for fun, I'm going to show you what we, well, I don't know if you can see that or not.
So yeah, there you go.
That's what we're seeing.
okay. It's really weird to see what you're seeing that we're seeing.
Okay, go back.
Yeah. Gotta love technology.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second.
No,
Oops. Let me maximize that again. I don't know what I'm hitting. Let's go there, go there.
to your share screen.
which is here.
Okay, you know what? We might.
Okay.
It was zoomed to 150. Can we zoom to 100? Would that do it?
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Wait, was
But-
Zoom 250 on theirs?
on there.
Well, we were at 100. So now we're seeing the left.
Okay, scale to fit. I think we
There we
got it.
go. Got it.
Bingo.
It was us.
It
Okay,
was Jeremy.
that was good. 'Cause
It was
that was good because we have things to do. We're going to just start clicking.
There we go. Now we're good.
All right, wonderful. One of the things that, anyway, I was telling you that every once in a while we have the governor's office or legislators request facility plans. So the nice thing about this, and also, you know, as Pete, as personnel change over in school districts, it's really nice to have a history of what they've talked with the state before on from year to year to year on facility planning. And these are just a really good opportunity for new facility directors, business managers, and superintendents to really see what the history is behind your school district and what's been talked about. So that's why we do this. So one of the things we improved on a couple last year and this year both is we use the county GIS sites to verify acreages and stuff. So those are the official records, and we roll forward in the database and stuff like that. The other thing we like to do is we try to grab and capture stuff out of the database and Google Earth and stuff like that, so that these facility plans are pretty intuitive for someone who hasn't seen one before, to just pick one up and look at it and have a pretty good understanding of what the district issues are and what the facilities are as well. So that's one thing we've done, or a couple things we've done in the last couple of years to improve these. So with that, then, this is perhaps more of a formality, but in one way, but not really, because it affects your block grant and major maintenance payments. But anyway, the district has reviewed acreages and verifies accuracy. So we appreciate that. That does affect and impact your block grant, specifically on groundskeepers. So thanks for doing that. And I just said, and I've got notes here. I kind of read it before, after you met and finalized it with Amber. I went and did some notes and stuff. If you see something you want changed, fine. We'll talk about that. So we've just kind of pre-populated to honor our time here. Property profiles, you guys reviewed those and verified accuracy. This has to do with allowable square footage that and ADM that generates major maintenance payments. So we want those very accurate. And also WDE operations and maintenance payments. It wasn't this way a while ago, but is now. I mean, this database, the AIM database, is really the official data that WDE uses to do your facilities or maintenance or operations calculations for the block grant. So we're real serious about this, and we appreciate you guys being serious about it as well. District, you've reviewed your leases and verifies accuracy. If it's a qualifying educational program, it can account towards your allowable square footage, which again impacts your major maintenance payments. So thanks for doing that. That's required by state statute. You've reviewed your enhancements. We are required each year to send to the select committee on school facilities an update on any enhancements. These are historical, but as we go through, we continue to update those and report them to that committee. So
would you go up to those? Would you go up to those enhancements?
You got
Pete was a middle school principal for us for a few years, and prior to that, he was a high school counselor. So this is his first sort of go through this with you. And while I appreciate your wanting to be brief in some of this, he hasn't had a chance to kind of field through this before. And so if you would just go back up to the property profiles, it may be just a good opportunity. So we verified the acreages of the district, and then what we do is we verify these are the individual buildings that the district had, some of which are active, some of which are surplus. Active means they're actively in use for the educational program in the district. Surplus being the old Tongue River Elementary School, now called the Tongue River Learning Center. It's got the official square footages. The SFD and SFC over the years has done a lot of work in visibly coming out and measuring spaces. We have to report annually how those spaces are used, whether they're used for storage, what kind of classroom space, office space. et cetera. And that's all what flows into determining how much routine maintenance we get, as well as major maintenance. And so this is just a snapshot of that. That's obviously not every building in the district. We've got a few others, but those are the ones that count towards that model. So, and then the enhancements, thank you, Troy. The enhancements for us, we only have three. We currently have three active leases. We used to have 6. Now we've got 3. And it's the Turner for Child's Place that they rent the building, plus they rent the space in the old elementary, plus the Turner Valley Community Center renting the space in the old elementary. So that's the 3 that we have, which is different than 6 in the previous years. And then the last thing here, just historical, are the enhancements that the district paid for, either by general fund revenues or reserves, or the bond payments that, or the bonds that we had. And so we had to, over the years, verify those, confirm them, how are they paid, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, thanks, Troy. He's just never seen this petty document before, and so it's pretty comprehensive, the review, but it won't take as long because we're easy and awesome. So there you go. Thanks, Troy, for the patience on that.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that. I'm going to slow down just a little bit, and I'll be just a little bit more instruction oriented as well. So
Perfect.
Thanks for reminding me of that.
Yeah,
that's perfect. Yeah, thanks.
Go around through this. That'll help.
So we do have one capital project out there, the Tongue River Elementary School, that had some money left over after completion, about $563,000, give or take. We see that the project's complete, remaining funds can be reverted, so we're going to revert those funds, and state statute, session law specifically requires us to do so. So I think we're all in line, and Bob, you're feeling good about reversion as well?
Yes.
Okay. So district will go ahead and do that. Thanks for
You bet.
notifying us that.
Yeah,
Bob, so anyway, that's just required each year we do, and actually Brandon last year started us doing this so that we can abide by state statute and move forward with that and make sure we get monies back, so that there's revenues for other needs out there for other school districts or the same district if you guys qualify for an appropriation request. And then security, so we're going to have Bob, he's got an informational, he's got some information he's going to share on security with regard to facilities, appropriations, etc.
You'd like to run through what we've got here as far as the security projects go, or a little bit of a history and where we are at today. The original funding for the security funds was done during the 2014 House Enrolled Act number 0056 and under House Bill 0042 for $9 million. The funding projects was funding projects was defined during the 2015 Senate Enrolled Act number 0089 and Senate File 0057. The current budget request is in the JAC draft bill, Joint Appropriations Committee bill, currently unnumbered. I don't know if that has gained a number yet.
It does.
Yeah. And that was drafted in December of 2018. That comprised, fiscal year 20 of $4.9 million is proposed for additional security projects. That for fiscal year 21 to 22, 10% of the major maintenance for security has been discussed in select committee to not be in the fiscal year 21-22. Unlike the 10% enhancement funds, continued 10% security major maintenance is not assured in the future. Overexpending security funds may become a district concern if funding is not continued in the next biennium. In the previous 10% security funding of major maintenance, the 2016 House Enrolled Act number 0012 for fiscal year 17 to 18 stated a school district may expend up to 10% of the amount distributed under the major maintenance program for the period commencing July 1st, 2016 and ending July 1st, 2018 for safety and security building and facility needs. Under the 2018 House Enrolled Act number 0062 for fiscal year 19 to 20, a school district may expend up to 10% of the amount distributed under this program for the period commencing July 1st, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2020 for safety and security building and facility needs. District written requests for CAPCON funding revisions will be honored. When you're doing that, moving funds between project appropriations, that must be in writing and acknowledge no backfill funding is available. The SFD will honor change agreements made by the SFD that are captured in a written record. The goal of security funding is intended to give each district an equal opportunity to provide consistent security standards for Wyoming K-12 schools, as listed in the October 2014 report. The School Facilities Commission and Select Committee for School Facilities have continued to identify concern with the slow deployment of funds. Other potential funds that are available to school districts that are not SFD administered are Homeland Security funding. You need to contact your local Department of Homeland Security for available funds. Also, the DOJ and private grants available on an irregular basis. Regular district searches are advised for those funds. Just a list of the security conferences we have had and are planning to have. We had the first one in October 2017 over at the Ramada Inn Convention Center in Casper. March 2018, we had that at Central Wyoming College in Riverton. October of 2018, Laramie Community College in Cheyenne. And 2019, we haven't had dates or locations scheduled or announced as of yet. So the question that we always come up to on all of these presentations is, what can we do to help the district move forward with expending the current funding that you have remaining in your security projects?
So Bob, to that end, could you go back up just a little bit to where you've got 7 areas highlighted out of 20? Or I'm sorry.
It's 8, actually.
Sorry. So just again for Mr. Kilbride, who doesn't have some context, so here's what happened. In about 2014, the School Facilities Commission, State Construction Department, et cetera, at that point, it's gone through a few names, Pete. So we just call it SFD or SFC, and the S and the F and the C may stand for different things over time. But what happened was we had, and I believe it was FEA, the boys from FEA came and they evaluated every building from a safety and security standpoint. They identified 20 categories for every facility, rated them, made suggestions for improvements to them and all those different elements, and then prioritized those 20 elements as you see here. The legislature did not fund all project types in all 20 categories. Okay?
So site lighting,
they did
parking
not,
lot, we can't do under this.
Correct. So
you,
you have to spend your funds that were received in those 7 areas. So there's fungibility between the 7 areas in the project, but only in those 7 areas. Okay, so what that translates, those 20 things they came to evaluate, those 8 priority areas translated to project amounts. Go ahead and go down, Bob, for me, please, or Troy. Go ahead and go down to specifically for our district. This. So we were given 210,000, almost 206, right? 37 different kinds of projects. There's the adjusted budget. They did some inflation adjustment. We've previously encumbered 89,000. We submitted today a request to have a bunch of that $89,000 come back to the district because we spent it on our vestibule upgrades and et cetera. That project's complete. We just submitted the consultant invoices, leaving us 131. A administrative assistant today on behalf of Mr. Kilbride submitted a request to encumber additional funds in that of about $20,000. So we'll be about 50% in funds that have done, and that's on the visitor management system, which is one of the allowable elements. That's our Raptor system. So Mr. Herzog will review that. He'll pass the DAL up the chain. That'll get approved. We will then bill against it. So we will have billed out about $100,000 of our $210,000 or $220,000 available to us. We have upcoming projects which will get approved through this same process through Bob Herzog. We'll get those approved. They'll be in those main areas. We've got locks at Tongue River High School we've got to take care of, and working systems, a few things like that. But so we've got some other secure vestibule items to deal with on those playground entrances. So that will be something we'd like to have complete this summer. So when I wrote the note down here lower, and plus then you can spend 10% of our major maintenance money on these same kind of projects. By the end of this summer, by the end of this next construction season, we'll have spent out nearly all of the security project funds that have been granted to the district, which granted is much slower, I think, than what the SFD and the legislature intended. But part of it just simply takes time to put projects in motion. You have to have an internal evaluation going. What's next? There's a certain amount of capacity, time, and energy that can be put on something. Right. Second of all is then, okay, what's our priority? What do we have to design? What do we have to get in the hopper? Then, so that we can even give Bob even a number to even kind of approve. So that's our intention, is to be completely spent out by the end of this upcoming construction season. So that was why my shorthand note is we're nearly spent out.
Right.
What it means is that's the shorthand version of we're just about through all of those funds. But then the hope is that the legislature will grant additional funds in some of those other safety and security areas that we can address the needs of our facilities. So there you go. How's that? That work, gentlemen?
That works.
Hey, Jeremy, you just keep talking because I have to talk so much in these things. You just keep talking, buddy. You're doing a great job.
Well, I just want, like I said, Pete's been in our system for about 12 years. This was not in his, circus. So just wanted to make sure he's clear on how and what we intend to have done. And he's been a part of that as an administrator, going, God, they're spending money on this or this or this or this. Just now he understands the pockets of money that these things come from.
I just used to ask Jeremy for money, and he always said no. And now I know there is money, so that's going to change.
Now you can. That's good.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, guys, I just put down here the district anticipates spending out the remaining security funds by the end of the upcoming construction season. We did talk about the fact that when and if you choose to spend that 10% security, be careful, don't overspend it, because we don't anticipate more money coming down the pike. I think the legislature pretty well has said, hey, you know what, we don't want to take from major maintenance anymore. And when and if we decide to move forward with capital funding, we'll make it equitable and do it across states, such as this 4.9. And then I'm sure you heard when Bob was explaining it, that 4.9 may open up all of these, not just the 8, but all 20, as long as you have money associated with a security element within any particular building, then you can spend it on those elements. You can't just create something or something that wasn't there, do that. But as long as, and I explained that correctly, I think, Paul. So if that makes sense, Jeremy, you got that?
Yeah, it does, Troy. We're, like I said, we've been careful to this point, obviously only spend, the monies in the 8 priority listed areas. We obviously have needs in some of those others, and my hope is we can pair some of that 10% money at some point with theirs and really take care of some of those other elements. So that we've just kind of been hoarding that for a little while.
Yeah, and Pete, Jeremy knows this probably, but this $156,657.22, that does not have to abide by the major maintenance definition. So a lot of districts kind of hold on, and then as they're doing projects and stuff, if it's adding new square footage or adding cameras or whatever it is that would not qualify for major maintenance definition, a lot of times they're using that to make up the difference. So that you can have a complete and holistic security project follow through to the end.
And I think one other thing that I'll add, that especially since it's been identified that you're new, Pete, that 10% doesn't mean that it's an additional 10%. That is 10% of your regular balance. So that balance that you're seeing there at 10% can live forever, but the issue is if you spend all your major maintenance, then you actually have no dollars to go back to pull 10% of it out of. So it is 10% of the total bucket.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Yeah, and honestly, as we progress through our security plans, we're having more and more discussions about internal cameras, which obviously are not covered under major maintenance, not covered under capital construction. I I do suspect that as we mature in our processes on security and safety and security elements, that it's likely as not that 156,000 gets spent on internal video surveillance systems, and that's one of the reasons we've been sort of holding that back, is to address that. But we've had some philosophical discussions about whether that's how we as a district want to proceed. So we've been kind of holding that in reserve for a little while until that conversation's had, and then we decide yes, we're going to do it, or no, we're not, and then we'll allocate it to a different element. Yeah.
Okay, good discussion on security. Capacity. So we have multiple schools within your district. We always keep track of percentages, and it has to do with each district, its grade configuration, what your enrollment was as reported and scrubbed through WDE on October 1 this year, what your capacity is through our methodology approved by the commission, and then we have a percentage of capacity. So in just a moment here, we're going to be talking about this 104%. Obviously, your Bighorn Elementary School is over quite a ways. Now, the Bighorn Junior Senior High School is far from over full. And so I'm sure that's a part of what you were going to talk about here in just a minute, is perhaps some reconfiguration alternative, non-construction alternatives on the same campus, but in a different building. But we'll address that in just a moment, guys. But that's 104%. We noticed that, or noted that. Everything else looks pretty good. I thought your enrollment projections, I'm going to go ahead and actually bring up the spreadsheet. So Pete, what we do is every year the enrollment is reported by us by WDE, and then we bring it over into a spreadsheet for kindergarten through 12th grade. And then we just populate, as the years go by, we populate each new year as we get that reported. What we do is we look at 10 years, we call it 10 years of trailing data in the past. And then what we do is we forecast, or project what, based on those trends through mathematical computations, formulas, we kind of project out what those numbers may look like in the future if the pattern of growth continues to remain the same. So that's kind of how that works. So past look of actual enrollment, and then project out and see what that could look like. So how these enrollment projections look like is what we're doing is we're actually looking at the number of students that go from one grade to another year by year. So for instance, 2008 kindergarten had 65, 2009 you had 75, and then it went first grade, second grade, third grade. So it's kind of like a stair step, and you follow the student numbers in that class as they work through from kindergarten through 12. So what we do is we call it a survival rate. What we do is we compare one grade to the next and see what the survival rate is. So 2008 kindergarten to 2009 first grade, 2009 kindergarten, 2010 first grade, you can kind of see the pattern. What we do is we take 10 years of that trailing data, we average it, and then for you guys from kindergarten, the number of students you have in kindergarten to first grade, you have a 93% survival rate, which means 93% of your students are advancing to first grade. And there's two reasons a lot, and you can tell us here in just a moment. There's two reasons why that happens a lot of times from kindergarten first grade. Number one is a lot of school districts will recognize, they'll screen the kindergartners, and if those kindergartners aren't developmentally ready to progress to first grade, they're gonna keep them one more year and really work with them, and then advance them to first grade. So there's kind of a delay there at times, and then also there could be some transition of students moving out of the district. But I'll let you speak. What do you guys? What is the story on the 93%?
So for us, it's the first one. We have at both of our elementary schools like what we call a Kinder Boost program. These are students that are of legal 5-year-old age to be kindergartners, but because of their either physical, emotional, or academic development, they'll do 1 year of Kinder Boost and then 1 year of kindergarten.
Okay.
So they're of legal 5-year-old age to be enrolled as kindergartners, but moms and teachers recognize that they're just not quite ready for the rigors of today's kindergarten. And so we do a full year of what's called Kinder Boost with them. And for us, that's about 30 kindergartners a year. It's
Okay.
between 20 and 30, and that's for both of our main elementaries, both Tongue River and Bighorn. So it's between 20 and 30 of our kindergartners don't survive to first grade. They stay.
Yeah, I had a legislator get kind of offended when I said survival rates. She said, I feel like children are dying. I said, no, it's mathematical. Don't worry about it. At any rate, so for you guys from first to second grade, you're picking up a tremendous amount of students to 103%. So you're picking them up, and then you guys pretty well grow up until it looks like about eighth grade. You guys are gaining students or maintaining the same number of students on an average clear through elementary into junior high. You guys lose a few students your freshman year, a few your sophomore. This is pretty typical across the state. This junior year takes school districts take a big hit. For you, Pete, that's a challenge, and if you guys can hold on to those students more at that grade level and not lose them as much, I think a lot of districts. I know that there's usually a year there where they're losing more students than not, and then you guys pick up or actually continue to lose into your senior year as well. So that's kind of just the survival rate and what happens in your district grade to grade.
Yeah, we do lose some to Sheridan High School. By that point,
we see between eighth grade and freshman. Some of the Bighorn folks will choose to go into Sheridan just because it's bigger and has more offerings. So we will see a change there.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise us to see that 8th to 9th grade survival rate.
Sophomore, junior, senior is troubling.
I've heard, and this is just a rumor, that people that come out of Sheridan that grew up there I don't know, they're just not quite.
Any comments, Brent?
We're looking at the Sheridan boy Brandon here in the room.
Because I left in would have been 9th grade. In 10th grade, I went back to Sheridan.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a Tongue River guy.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, by the way, Brandon just came in, and I wrote him off this time, and he shows up. So, Brandon, why don't you introduce yourself in your role?
Good afternoon, Brandon Finney with State Construction. Work with the team to identify the capital needs and present to legislative bodies.
And it's from Tongue River.
Excellent. Thanks, Brandon.
Yep.
So let's finish up your projections. If you take the last 10 years, your average class size is 78. Obviously, you guys have picked up into the 90s for the most part this last 4 or so years. You guys used to be in the 60s, 50s, so you guys are looking good. And as you look down here on your total, and you guys, and Jeremy, you told us this a while ago, and I'm not so sure your gain here, like from last year to this year, this is a huge amount of students that you gained. And there's a lot of districts in the state that are probably very envious of this number, because those numbers mean 15,000 a student usually around that, and can really help you guys provide the services for excellence in education. So we get that, but talk to us a little bit about this huge gain. You got like 88 students from last year to this year. Talk to us about economically what's happening.
So Troy, that of those 88, 55 of them in this period of time are brick and mortar students, and 33 of them are from our approved Cowboy State Virtual Academy. But 55 of them still in all are butts and seats in our buildings. And so we've got a couple things going on. One is we've got some homeschool students that are now attending school with us through our virtual academy that we're getting. And then we've now got more students because of the growth in the economy of Sheridan County. We're seeing a significant number of those students through the Weatherby move, Kennon's expansion, EMIT's expansion, VacuTech's expansion on the north end of Sheridan. So of the 55, probably half are Tongue River and the other half are Bighorn. So that, half is explained by the growth in Sheridan on the north end. The other half are explained by the continued housing construction in the Powderhorn Golf community and other parts in that south part of Sheridan County. So it's kind of evenly split. Frankly, the physical brick and mortar student growth is evenly split between TR and Bighorn, and we continue to see houses move. Sales in Tongue River, and continue to see houses under construction. So it's a pretty exciting time to be in our part of the world.
And you see the dip there from 16 to 17 too, and that I think was partly attributable to the mineral industry, coal and all that, and now they started to hire back, and so that also plays a role.
Yep, absolutely. So that was definitely, that right there was the Decker mine and Spring Creek mine in the north, in southern Montana, right across our border. That was really in line with that. And now, A, those jobs came back, and B, the light manufacturing business is good business.
So Jeremy, on your virtual school that you were just talking about, what was the name of that again?
Cowboy State Virtual Academy, CSVA.
And
it's
is that
one of the three approved.
Okay, that's not associated with those that are going through distant learning? Or is that?
That's a distant education program?
It's a virtual school. It's an actual virtual school. There are 3 that are approved by the state. We house one, Lust houses one, and Cowley houses the other.
Yeah, we used to call it virtual, and I know that's what it is. WD gets mad at us if we ever say that. They call it distance education. But at any rate, that's really interesting, because I wonder, we do not include those distance education student numbers in here. But Jeremy, I think you just confirmed that we may have missed that, and we'll back those out, or we'll double check with WDE, and we'll kind of get back on there. What we're looking at is brick and mortar.
They are technically brick and mortar, though, because that's how WDE requires us to report them.
Remember, they're enrolled at a physical school.
Yeah, they're enrolled. So Tongue River High School's graduation rate will be affected by those virtual ed kids.
Yep, we get that. They just don't attend there. It's through virtual education, correct?
Correct. Yeah, but here's the thing: your WDE enrollments you're pulling do include virtual students, because they have enrolled at one of our physical schools, right?
Right. Well, yes, for WDE side, that's correct. And for major maintenance, ADM, they are also included in your major maintenance. What we don't do is include them in enrollment projections, which is how many students are physically attending a building. So it doesn't hurt you any. It's not affecting you. You're still getting the same amount of major maintenance. Still getting the same.
Right.
So just like.
So Troy, for right now, just as we sit right here, we have 1,034 students in our district right now. Instead of that 1,018, we're 1,034, and 50 of those are virtual ed students. And so we've gone up even more in brick and mortar students, even since October. It's kind of incredible, frankly. And so we'll talk more about what our non-constructive solutions are to those. Non-constructive solutions are to that, just the brick and mortar student growth. Obviously, we don't have any discussions with you on virtual school student growth.
You bet. That sounds good. What we're going to do here also is, because let's go down this next part. We'll get to that conversation. I think it's a very good conversation. But at any rate, guys, congratulations on the growth. It's exciting, and it's good for the school district. It's a challenge. We know it's a challenge, but I'll tell you, compared to a lot of school districts, it's a positive challenge. So you guys.
We'll take this problem all day long.
No kidding.
So also, Pete, what we do each year, and this is just a snapshot of your projections. So what we do is we look at statewide enrollments and capacities in particular grade configurations, and we kind of do the percentages. So you guys can see right here, for instance, that Sheridan 1, you guys are number 3. You're 9 students short right now on a K5 in Bighorn on that campus. So we acknowledge that. And let me do something here. I'm going to insert. Oops. I don't want that. I'm going to kind of highlight and make sure that that stands out in the facility plan, guys. So, okay. So anyway, so a year ago or last year, the commission, they used to have a restricted capacity of 25. Well, they had it at, let me just go to the one time before the latest version. The commission basically has a capacity methodology that said students from K through 6, if their classroom can hold it up to 25 students, that's what the capacity calculation would be. However, they got a bunch of kickback from the school districts, and the school districts, a lot of school districts want the kindergarten through 3rd grade capacity calculation to mirror, not by state statute requirement, but to mirror the funding model for 16:1. Actually, I think that's K through 6, Jeremy, is that right? I think it's K, I thought it was K through 5, but it might be K through 6, 16:1.
Depending on your, it depends on your grade configuration for your facility. So because our elementaries are K5, it applies K5.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So anyway, but the commission got a bunch of pushback in rules and regs and stuff. So they went back and they reinstated the restricted capacity of 16. That doesn't mean you guys can put as many students in the classroom as you want. This is just how we do the calculations. And so with that, then last year, I think we only had like 1 or 2 high capacity above 100%. But with that change from the commission, we had these 2 high schools in Cheyenne and Rock Springs are above, or actually Rock Springs is even now. And we're looking at maybe doing a study in Cheyenne to see what we're going to do in the future for their high schools. But you can see a bunch of elementary schools kind of popped up to above 100%, including you guys. So you're on the radar screen, and it's really important we talk about this. And we probably ought to make some really good notes on this, because what we're gonna do is you guys, and we recognize. Well, let me finish this first. We've got some medium capacities between 95 and 100, low capacity school districts 90, 95, and this is kind of like the radar screen for capacity concerns in the state from highest to lowest. The Casper one is unique, and everybody who's been around any time, they look at that and they're 300 seats short in the elementary schools they're using. But they just got done like a year ago mothballing 4 schools that are in shape. So they've got 921 seats in buildings just sitting vacant. So I don't anticipate them qualifying for some appropriation request because of the availability of seats and other schools closed.
Right.
So you guys were at this time, you're talking about non-construction solutions, which we would agree with, because when you look up here, state statute does require us, by state statute, the commission look at non-construction alternatives. We've always already acknowledged that you have, well, I mean, you're 40%, less than 40% full in the junior high school. So you guys get that, and what you said here then was basically we'll contemplate non-construction solutions, such as moving the 5th grade over to the high school, middle school, and you don't have to do that. Obviously, there are challenges there, but obviously we as a state agency respect that and would have to look at that anyway in order to meet state statute. If project growth continues in Tongue River, we would move 6th grade to Tongue River Elementary School and move kindergarten to Tongue River. Is that Learning Center? What's LC?
Yep, that's that surplus building that we've got. It was the old Tongue River Elementary.
That's right.
It's been officially, we submitted the paperwork and name, so it's got the official new name, but that's sort of our short-term or medium range thinking right now, is that Bighorn Elementary is full. It gained, I don't know, 15 or 16 students in total this year, which put it at that 233, 234 mark in terms of kids. But right now, we don't anticipate that number going to 260. You know what I mean? And so for right now, I think we stay where we are doing what we're doing and just recognizing that we're full. I mean, that's pretty good. But if in the short term, 2-3 year time frame, if that number were to jump to that, we would have to seriously consider, putting that 5th grade over there with 6th grade and kind of having it do its thing, and 7th and 8th grade having it do its thing, because there's plenty of room in that building. We would just want to make sure it's educationally appropriate for the grade levels. Now, the only places that distance ed is included is in Tongue River. Bighorn's numbers are actual butts and seats.
Troy, can you go back to the capacity one?
Yeah, right up here.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So they're saying that Tongue River, they do. They acknowledge they have some growth there. Or you guys have more potential growth in Tongue River than in Bighorn. Is that correct?
Correct. Well, I think we have. We do. Yeah, I think we'd say yes to that because what's still at odds in Sheridan County is the zoning for residences in that part of the county. Because Bighorn's not an actual incorporated town, it's subject to county zoning, and Sheridan's is pretty restrictive.
So what's your
But
time?
What's that?
This is Brandon. What's your time frame on the Bighorn ES configuration adjustment?
2-3 years, something like that, maybe 2. Yeah. I don't. None of us are anticipating that we're going to be really much bigger than that 233 for next year, and so I think the plan is to kind of hang tight and be at that 104% for right now.
Okay.
So when we look at Bighorn Elementary School, let's go back like 4 or 5 years. 2014, it's always this top number, right, guys?
Okay.
It was 189, 182, 207, 205. 233. It had a fairly good jump this year.
Yeah, and those are all actual butts and seats. So that's not.
Yep.
So we'll have to see what happens over the next couple of years and see if we go back to the 205, 206 range, or if we're still hanging.
Okay, I'm just curious though on. Let me go back to this. I was thinking I put in here. So here's the Bighorn campus.
Okay.
Yep.
Up a little. Actually, let me go to, let's just do this a little bit different. Let's just go to the horse's mouth. Maybe. Right off the highway there, and I'm hoping we can do this. Yep, we can. Oh, okay. Isn't it beautiful? Hey, what I was curious about, Jeremy, on this end of the building, are you guys able, just for curiosity's sake, are you guys able to add, was that designed to add on to the end?
Yes, Troy. When we built and designed and built Bighorn Elementary, it was designed to add what would be since it's two story there. It is we were going to be able to add 8 classrooms.
Oh, nice. Wow.
Yeah, so double loaded 2 classrooms each side. Should fit there.
So 8 classrooms, you said?
Yeah, should be able to add 4 on the first floor and 4 on the bottom floor.
Okay. So anyway, I thought that was a really good conversation to have.
Yeah,
not to say they're heading there right now, but this is, I think it's a good, we should definitely establish that.
Yeah.
And the difficulty is the cafegimatorium. And we recognize that when we built, Bighorn right now is a 2-section elementary, right? It's a very full elementary at 2-section. In order to go to 3-section, which is what you would do by adding those classrooms, and really you'd probably add just 6 classrooms, not 8, to add 1 more per grade level. The difficulty then becomes the cafegimatorium at the end, right? Because of the lunch schedule drives everything. And so it's why in some cases it almost makes some sense to really seriously contemplate 5th and 6th grade as an academy kind of configuration over in the middle school, high school building, and 7th and 8th grade in junior high kind of configuration in that same building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a K5. What is that? That's a 5, right?
K5,
So-
yeah.
So you're saying you have 2 sections in K through 3. Do you have 3 sections in 4 and 5?
No, it's K5. Yeah, 2 sections K5.
Okay, in each and every one of them. Okay, I got it. So what I'm trying to do here, Brandon, it's going to take some time, but I want to make sure we capture this because we're going to have to report this in the budget.
That's what I'm thinking. I want to ask Paul and Bob. So, like, I don't get all the grade stuff, but as far as building, and you are talking about 4 versus 6 and bathrooms and circulation, would this be something we'd want to plan ahead of time to know these grades move here? If you do 4 rooms, you also need bathrooms and other amenities and now.
I would agree. It makes sense to do a full planning study for the whole district, in particular at that elementary level, so that you aren't looking too closely at one particular solution and not realizing that you're causing another problem someplace else.
Well, let me comment on that one. I'm not sure how far is Bighorn campus from the rest of the world?
So we are Bighorn's campus is 6 miles from the incorporated line for the city of Sheridan, and that plays a factor in this. You guys have to know part of the reason we grew was because Sheridan too quit taking some of our kids because they got very full at Park, right? They got full at Woodland Park, and so they quit picking them up to bring them into their school. And so we got some of those kids back who had chosen, initially chosen they're going to go to District 2 for school. And so we play that game a little bit along that line, right?
Yeah.
Because if you go, you've got the land that we own there and that other pin that you've got, that's the border. So you've got, no. Go north on Highway 335. So go back north. You've got a yellow pin there.
Yeah,
Got a
that's
yellow pin. That's for Bighorn Water.
Oh,
Our
right.
rec district owns
Right.
that right there. Highway 87 that goes off to Story. That's the north border for our district.
Gotcha.
That's owned by our rec district.
Sure. One unnamed land.
Okay.
Right.
How many acres is that?
Can't be more than a couple.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's like 2.55 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. Interesting.
Woodland. So Woodland Park shut off and they kicked the kids back.
What's that?
Woodland shut it off and kicked the kids out, huh? Back to you.
Yeah, because they're getting full. They have their own capacity problems, right?
And my understanding was that a new transportation director as well, and then said we're not going to pick those kids up or something, which, I mean, it got us our kids back, but we weren't asking for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, so back here, guys. What do you want to say here, Brandon? Do you have any? We're gonna have to put something and report something to the select committee and the commission both.
Well, that was why I was wondering what their plan is. So I think what we do is say, hey, they got a high need. The district's looking to see if these numbers stay at this level. We would do some planning to identify proper direction.
Yeah, and again, I think, we would seriously examine some non-constructive solutions. We would look at, constructive solutions if that became the issue. But I've been through this ringer before trying to build on that campus. It creates problems. I mean, there's no doubt about it, right? I mean, it's a constrained site. We obviously were able to add on to that site with the Land Opportunity Fund a few years ago. But building there isn't going to be our first choice.
Well, for the elementary level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what you're putting in there is appropriate, because even if we do a non-construction solution, if we have this big of a problem and we move some kids over to the middle school, eventually those elementary kids become true middle schoolers, and those sections may go 3 sections rather than 2, and then we're right back to having to go, okay, now what?
Okay, so Brandon, do you like
The
that?
district believes that the enrollment may plateau. It was to monitor, the district wants to monitor enrollment next year's. If enrollment continues to grow, planning study may be requested to thoroughly explore options and their impact. Okay? Yeah, so if we got money now, the money wouldn't be out for another year. So, okay.
Okay, guys, and what we're going to do is this is what we're going to report, or very close to this wording. We might adjust it just barely, but this is what we're going to report to the commission and select committee when they look at this number and if any flags raised. Now, it may not even be reported now that I think about it, but at least we have it covered, because later on here, and we can pop down there right now, way down here. One of the things, and Jeremy, you're probably familiar with this, our rules and regs were updated this last, fall or something.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the commission did was, it's actually in the 2003 rules and regs is my recollection, and it was never really removed out of there. It just wasn't recognized that we had the wrong rules with the Secretary of State, and they hadn't been updated. So anyway, we went back through, did this. But every building now is, even though you're like 104% capacity, we used to take submit to the commission a capacity list and make recommendations off of it independently from a condition list. We made recommendations off it for the top of it. And then when capital funds came along to remedy those buildings on the top of one of those 2 lists, we also dealt with educational suitability simultaneously through major capital appropriations. Right. Now each of your buildings is going to, it's the measurement of their score as a composite score is going to be of 3 other scores. It's going to be 50% of the weighting will be on condition, 35% capacity, and 15% suitability, educational suitably. So even though you have up here 104% capacity, it may never show up holistically on a prioritization list because your condition of these schools is so superior.
Right. Yep. Understood. And again, we were sort of taken by surprise a little bit about the growth at Bighorn this year, because that wasn't kind of where we thought we would see what we saw. And so again, I think we're one data point. We don't quite know if we believe it quite yet, so we want to see a couple in a row, which obviously will put stress and strain on our system. So
Makes sense, though.
And so, and I put this one other like fine print in there. I should kind of make it real small, like a contract. But anyway, appropriation request. And so this is what we're thinking possibly, but it would have to fall. It would have to fall into that 50, 35, 15% and be up on a list far enough to, even though your capacity. Now, we thought maybe the legislature would change something in state statute to not do that weighting. But nothing happens. Well, I guess we're just moving forward, and we're going to do what we're going to do because that's what we need to do.
Right. You know, and truthfully, as we've talked through this issue, it may be special education space that drives some of our decisions at Bighorn Elementary more than anything else. It's got one special ed room and it's little. And, you know, at 170 kids or whatever were in there when it opened, it was fine. 233 kids, that number may not quite be so fine. So that special education needs, space needs may drive some of our decisions even more than just capacity, frankly. So we'll have to be, we wanted to talk about it. That's why we brought it up. I appreciate you bringing it up. We don't want anything done at this point.
Okay, perfect. Hey, thanks though for flagging it and giving us a good start because we're already putting together and thinking about, I should say, and noting for next year or this coming appropriation request for the biennial budget.
Yeah, honestly,
okay.
Gentlemen, though, and Amber, the thing that concerns us the most as we structurally think about it going forward is Tongue River Middle School. It has more students in it right now than it ever has, and so that's the pinch point in our configuration in Tongue River is Tongue River Middle School. The capacity number of 199, that school was designed dumb, and it has really bad circulation space. I mean, it's a killer. But that one there, if it continues to grow in butts and seats, that's the one that concerns us the most because of the housing starts out this way. So that's where we really are going to be thinking through, what do we do about 6th grade? What do we do about 8th grade? Do we move them up or down? How do we use that Tongue River Learning Center building to its best advantage to us? That's really, truly the one that's got us the most thinking about things going forward. The academic spaces just aren't as big as they should have been built.
Are you gonna say it was designed and built right? I don't know what I'm lying. We have a architect here, so there's
Careful.
they had a little bit of too much free reign in their effort of design at that point. It's got twice as much hallway as it should, and it's awful. And it just creates. Yeah, if you can go to that Google Earth image, it would help of the ranch of that building. I'll try to kind of give you a little bit of a sense of what I mean.
Isn't it? Am I going too far?
yeah.
Yeah, you're on the Indian Red. Yeah, south.
Right down there.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Oh wow, I was way up there. Sorry guys. All right.
There you go.
Middle school. You want to just look at the middle school particularly? Oh yeah, I remember that now. Oh. Hold on, Betsy needs to focus here.
So that building looks like a barbell from up above, right? Two circles connected by a hallway. The circle on the right, the smaller one, the square, I guess, on the right is the academic section, and it's a single loaded corridor that goes around the library. Okay, so the library's dead center, and it's a single loaded corridor all the way around to classrooms on the outside of the ring.
Really?
Okay. That's the only academic section. The other thing, the other big square, is the gym, cafeteria, art room, office, and music space. And it's a single loaded corridor that goes all the way around the gym as well. And so it's circulation space is really, really, really inefficient. So that's what creates that 199 capacity. I promise you, we cannot put 199 students in that building. There's just no way. They would have nowhere to sit in a classroom to actually learn. You know what I mean? And just, you can't do it.
What year is that building?
83.
83?
Yeah. So again, our concern is right now we have class sizes in the 50s. So we have, 50 sixth graders, 50 seventh graders, 50 eighth graders. We could not handle class sizes in the 60s in that building. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, there's not. If we went to 3 sections, there's not enough classrooms to even do 3 sections.
And even if you were having some kids in music, some in art, and some in PE, it just doesn't work. There's not enough places to pawn them off. So this is the one again. But the good news is we have opportunity in Tongue River because we have the Tongue River Learning Center building still in our inventory, and the elementary across the way was built as a 3-section elementary, and it's currently just a 2. So it's got a K1 wing, it's got a 2-3 wing, and a 4-5 wing. You could just as easily make those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Good discussion. Yeah, I prefer the middle school. I prefer describing it. It looks to me like a baseball diamond.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
2 attached baseball diamonds. I like it.
Okay.
Again, single loaded corridors, which we would never build a single loaded corridor building right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great discussion, guys. All right, ready to head on. I think we got the capacity covered for that. Charter school, you don't have one.
Nope. No.
It's easy. So for Pete, basically every building has a condition score, a facility condition index number. And the higher the number, the more deferred maintenance. And this is just a facility planning. We call this the facility planning continuum. When a building's brand new, like Tongue River Elementary School, you're doing preventive maintenance. They're getting major maintenance, but you're kind of just forecasting. Not to say that major maintenance isn't spent on a brand new building, but it should be a lot less than later on in its life. And then you just continue to execute your preventive maintenance and major maintenance. You continue to forecast major maintenance. And you basically say, hey, you know what? Sometimes they grow like you guys are having experience, and maybe you try to design those buildings for future growth and be able to add on to. But you also have to look at the fact that sometimes site restrictions and stuff like that, or the original construction, maybe it was early on in the School Facilities Commission's history, or it was before the School Facilities Commission built by a bond. Sometimes they're not designed in such a way that it's easy to add on to, so you have to explore other options, such as grade configuration changes or new buildings or whatever. And then as you go on, of course, you have to start forecasting the major capital investments down the road as that building ages to a higher deferred maintenance percentage. So this is just a calculation on how they take the current replacement value. Some people we build brand new buildings and then we go out and assess them. And people go, well, what in the heck why are you doing that? Okay, well, you're establishing a baseline. You're establishing the value of the building, and you're doing that baseline so that from that point forward, you can basically measure the performance of that building and condition over time. So you can't get to where you want to get unless you know where you are to begin with. And so what we do is we take the current replacement value, the total value of the building, and we divide it into the deferred maintenance amount, which is basically a percentage of deferred maintenance is each element or each what am I trying to say there? Each component basically has a worth to it, and if it has a like 15% deficiencies, then that is tied in that system to a dollar amount that is correlated to the system that generates basically a deferred maintenance value, and then the total value of the building divided into the deferred maintenance value that gives you a total facility condition index number. I said that really quick, but this is kind of in practice what it looks like. So notice up there at the right place in Fort McKenzie, which was in the old what elementary?
Highland Park.
Highland Park, that building was a piece of garbage at a .71. So it had a lot of deficiencies, a 1953 building. And this is just page one of multiple pages out of 400 and some educational buildings. This is just page one of those buildings. And so maybe 30 buildings here, highest to lowest. You notice a .32 would be half the, or this .71 would be probably have twice the deferred maintenance associated as your .32, give or take. So anyway, this is the educational building list, and I told you before that we were always independently submitting this to the commission for recommendation potentially to the select committee. That's not going to be the case anymore. We'll use these FCI numbers as a data point within three numbers for your building, but it's just 50% of the score, not 100% of the score. And then down in support buildings, we actually do support buildings separately. State law requires the commission to prioritize educational buildings for capital requests before support buildings. This kind of leaves us in a little bit of a quandrum or quandary, I should say, because basically there's not a lot of money going out to capital appropriations for educational buildings, let alone support buildings. So I think school districts at this point anyway can pretty well depend on, you better take care of your building and make it last, because about major maintenance and maybe component funding, which we'll talk about in just a moment, are the two resources. Major capital probably will not be going out toward support buildings for quite a while unless some revenue miracle happens in the state of Wyoming, something changes dramatically or they change their priorities. So in your buildings, notice on that first list here, you had a worst building, .71. The best building out of the top 30 was a .32. You guys have your worst as a .12. So you guys have, yeah, I mean, you guys have
doing all right.
Excellent buildings.
Yeah, we're very, very happy, and yeah, we don't have no issues, like I said, other than good ones in our place.
So I just put district buildings are in very good condition, and we'll continue to monitor those with you guys, and you're using major maintenance as you believe is best to meet your needs. Was that good, Pete? Did that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. Every 4 years we do these assessments. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Building major maintenance, there's work orders in a database that Jeremy submits, and we update those statuses on a regular basis so that we have an updated database. You guys have done that. You guys submit work orders for major maintenance projects you want to do. Bob looks at those. If they qualify for major maintenance, he approves them. If he has questions, he sends a note back, and you guys clarify. And I would imagine he doesn't reject too many, but probably maybe half of them.
We're up to about 85% right now, so we're doing all right.
Okay. Yeah, just don't catch him on a bad day.
Oh yeah.
We've actually through that process quite a bit recently, just keeping things going, and it's working well. We had a good conversation last week, Bob and I did, just making sure he and I are on the same page. I had such a long-standing relationship with my previous project managers, both Tanner and then Maury, before even Tanner. And so and then when we were doing all that capital construction, I saw him all the time. And so Bob's fairly new, and so he and I we figured out a good working relationship, and we've kind of got it cruising. So things are going well, and I appreciate all your guys' efforts to that end. So.
Well, we know from our analytics that less than 5% of major maintenance requests usually are not acted upon in a positive manner by the SFD. So we know as a whole, most major maintenance requests get accepted as is.
Yep.
Which means everybody kind of understands the rule of engagement, right, which is good. Look in here, you guys. Oh, go ahead, Jeremy. Did you have something else?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I would agree with Paul's assessment. I mean, I think, we've been doing this long enough to kind of know what fits the rules and what doesn't. So,
yeah.
So last year you submitted the 680, which is just a report, basically reporting what you did with major maintenance. And that's after June 30th, and we appreciate you doing that. And then, of course, we do this because these are very important numbers that we have to report above us to the commission and select committee. And then, obviously, when we go out for condition assessments, we actually provide these numbers per system. We'll actually break those down and provide to the consultant so they know what kind of monies have been spent on that building and what systems they've spent it on, so that when they go in, they have a very good understanding of what has changed in those systems when they do the condition assessment. So for you guys have been spending money like wild people, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, happy spenders. So anyway, and Jeremy, you know this, your 8% enhancement monies can be spent on like things that like teacherages or sports field lights, things that wouldn't necessarily they would not be approved for regular major maintenance because they're not really within the adequacy standards. So that's what 10% enhancement monies are for, is to kind of provide your flexibility for facilities that aren't within the state inventory for the state's responsibility to take care of. So, but the state does provide those 10% monies. You had, as of June 30th, about $500,000 there. And then this 8% balance, this was, and Jeremy, you might have a better memory than me. I think it was about 2003 that they came out, and in the calculation they did 8% enhancement. Then the next biennium they did a 10% enhancement. Exactly the same definition. You can use them for the exact same thing. So what we're encouraging business, because we're like 15 years back in our balances here. If you guys decide to spend enhancement monies in the future, Jeremy, if you could spend your 8% and zero that out for us so we can get rid of that category, we would appreciate it if you do it in the enhancement.
Bob just approved a couple of projects that we tagged to our 10% money, and I'll reframe. Maybe we'll change that to the 8% first. We've got a water line that's got to get replaced and a hydrant installed a fire hydrant installed at that Tongue River Learning Center. And because that building is surplus for us, any money spent there has to be from those pots. And so to that end, we'll make sure and tag that first $52,981 from the 8% money before we talk about major maintenance 10% money.
Good.
Okay, we'd really appreciate that. That would help us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, easily.
And one more comment to the superintendent. You have a balance of 790, but you've got a balance in your 8, 10, and 10% pots of 693,000. If your balance under the regular major maintenance goes below 693, you don't necessarily have access. You have the rights to it if you have the money, but if you don't have the money, right, you can't spend it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and it's what we've done is, and I shared this with Bob. We do a 6-year facility plan internally, and we've got a couple of projects that we'll have to do on our enhancements. We've got those tracks and turf fields and things like that are going to have to get addressed in the next several years, and that's what that 10% enhancement money we have the right to use the major maintenance money for that purpose up to that amount. But Bob's right. Obviously can't spend money that doesn't physically exist.
So my wife said.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
All right, guys, we'll go on from here then. This is just a snapshot of last year's priorities. You don't have to defend it or say anything. We know you guys are happy about pavements. So anyway, you got 404,000. That was your highest priority numerically for expenditures, down to your roof coverings, lower. And then we just have a building by building breakdown. And again, this is just in case someone asks to see your facility plan. It's just representative of last year's numbers. Low condition scores, we always take the, well, you guys don't have a lot, so we have to cheat, and it's kind of like the high-performing athlete. You got to kind of challenge them more because, you can get more out of them. So you guys don't have any ones which are failure condition scores for building, for components, such as roof coverings. 3 means fair, 2 means poor, 1 means failure, 4 means good, 5 means excellent. So you guys are kind of in the mid-range of deferred maintenance on these particular components at these specific buildings. I know, Jeremy, you watch this closely and look what's going on. But what we do is every year we have these legislators and committees. They're going, well, the districts are supposed to be addressing their highest needs first, which is their lowest scoring components. And are they doing that? So what we decided to do, instead of us speaking on behalf of districts, we actually have the lower scoring, and they're all mid-range. There's nothing poor or failure. And then we just let you respond and say what you want to about that. So if some legislator or something asks us, we just send them your information, and you can see you guys have completed. So you guys are taking care of your buildings proactively, and I don't see anything to be concerned about other than the fact that every district needs to continue to take care of its buildings for its major maintenance.
Agreed.
And is that derived from your 4-year visit then? Is that when?
Yes.
These are looking at?
Yeah, so what we do is we pull those numbers, and then we let the districts kind of respond to each component on a yearly basis. And that way, because we only do that condition assessment every 4 years, it costs $2.5 million, give or take, statewide. So it's just kind of a way to keep up on it without actually going out in the field every year and actually spending $2.5 million a year.
Thanks.
That's the one project I think that I need to add to the. It's
Not
on
this
the
summer, but the following summer.
Probably 3 years. They're fair. They're not good, but for that building, I mean, we've obviously spent the vast majority of our funds the last few years at Tongue River Middle School and Slack Elementary to address these items. One of the components that's outstanding at that building that does need to be addressed in the near term, and when I say near term, next 4 years, is really the exterior windows. And that's project, it's down there, it's a $109,000 project. It's about 3/4 of the way down.
Yeah.
That one, that's in our plan. We're going to address that. Again, we've got a couple of things that got to come ahead of that, but that'll be one. We'll go back through that building and replace all those windows with good casement windows.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else will basically have been completed in the next year or two, aside from that.
What's Pete going to do? There's nothing to do for him to do.
Well, no, so what am I going to do, right?
What are you going to do?
His circus tent's a bit bigger than mine, so he's always got something going.
Okay, we were talking about we were talking about the condition assessment. So this fall, we're going to put together the scope, get out, procure a professional service provider to go do it. We're going to have, and Jeremy, I think you guys have attended, but we always have training in April, or this next year in April we will. It won't be on April 1st, but it'll be in April most likely, and we'll let you guys know when that training is. And all we do is we just do it in Casper. It's a 4-hour meeting. We walk through the tool that is used to do the condition assessments on site. Pete, I'm sure you have entertained them in the past since you've been around a while. And so we provide training for the districts, make sure they understand the tool, and then make sure they understand the importance of their involvement. It doesn't happen very often anymore, but in the past we've had school districts hand the condition assessment team shows up, they throw the keys at them, say have fun, at the end of the day bring them back. And we don't recommend that. We want your most informed person who knows your facilities to walk side by side with those condition assessors during the assessments and make sure they get as accurate information as possible, because based on that information is how they score your buildings. So it's really important. Any questions on that? Oh, one other comment on that. So we'll provide that in Casper, just 4 hours. And then the other thing then to tell you is we have had complaints in the past. Well, you guys send out these assessment teams during the school year. And what we say is, you know what? Just like you guys, 2.5 months for over 500 buildings in the state is not enough. You have to have an army of assessors. So we're going to touch your end of school year They're going to be out there for some school districts at the end of the year. We'll try to maximize the summer, and then probably we will go into the fall a little bit. But that's just because we don't want to spend $5 to $6 million on assessments across state with 30 teams. We only want like maybe 7 or 8 teams. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Component projects. Component projects are capital projects, and what they were there, and Jeremy knows this well, is some districts, whether large or small, sometimes have their major maintenance just isn't enough to spread out and meet all their needs. So school districts are able to ask for component projects to supplement their major maintenance. There's very specific criteria in which those projects are valued and scored. And you guys had Tongue River High School boiler at about $500,000. And there's a committee made up of, we don't do that ourselves. Actually, we do score in the way of objective data, such as, I can't remember what you guys PMs do for scores.
What their major maintenance balance is, or it was at their last report, how much major maintenance payment they get. Just very, very objective information about how you expend the dollars that are given to you that you report back to us. So all we're doing is reporting what you report.
Yeah, it's for them, it's just an objective scoring. For the 12 district representatives, we always ask each biennium for 4 superintendents, 4 business managers, and 4 facility directors, and they actually are the ones that score each of these. Anyway, on this year, guys, you ended up 24th. We would have to get about $34 million for you to get funded on that. And so you can see there's a total of 31 and a total of 39 million requested. So I don't know what to tell you other than the fact that everybody looked at it, scored it, and that's how it came out in the end on the prioritization list.
And that's a good process, Troy. I was one of the 4 business managers a couple of years ago who, scored for districts, scored these projects from districts, and it's a good process. I think the sort of the way you toss out the high score and the low score and you go, it's pretty statistical how it works when you have objective, or when you have a group of people scoring this, it's really done very well. I think the process you guys have used to prioritize component projects makes sense, and we certainly respect that process and understand what our need is, maybe relative to one of those other districts is lower. So that's why our ranking was 24th and not 3rd, 4th, something like that. So again, no issue with the process, no issue with how it's done. I just wish the legislature quit feeling broke. They should fund them all. So there you go.
Well, we would sure like that too. It'd be nice to clean them off the plate, and but we'll see what they do this year. So I just guys here that districts continue to maintain its buildings with available major maintenance funds. Component request is number 24 on this year's prioritized list. And we don't have to really mention that on the component because it's a project in and of itself. But we recognize that it's there, and we'll see how far the legislature wants to go down on that before we submit. Let's see here, Brandon. I think, hey, I got to quit talking and let Brandon talk now. So one of the things that we started doing, I think started last year doing, is reviewing legislative action and bills. But the reason we did this, because we know you guys through the WASBO website or WASO or wherever you call it, you school districts do a really good job tracking bills as they work through the legislative process. But we recognize that some of the bills here that we're going to talk about, you guys know about because you're tracking them also on the education side. But there's some here that you guys might not necessarily know about that are going to affect what you do as a school district with regard to potential facility issues and needs. So with that, then I'm going to let Brandon kind of walk through this real quick. Red is dead and green is go so far. So these red ones, he'll just kind of skip. I mean, he can certainly talk about them, but they've already failed and are not moving forward in the legislative process. Brandon?
So the House Bill 8 was just to increase the major maintenance. CRV, 2 to 2.5 has died. House Bill 52 is on public works. It's for FF&E, so you'd have to work on with your architect to write specifications where the products can only be spec'd for Wyoming vendors. House Bill 65 is procurement, trying to get the values up to present dollar or present value of today's dollars, and also standardize the advertising duration. So right now,
Brandon, that one's going to have some significant effect. That one will have significant effect on the procurement of our non-constructive services like A&E, right? I mean, that's really, because that's very different for schools going forward, because schools were allowed to hire their own architects, engineers without a specific procurement process. This now sort of sets that in motion. Is that right?
So on the capital construction side, you're operating under SFC policy 2013, 10, and 11. That was
right.
a plagiarism off of this statute. So what they did is they just incorporated and made it into the statute. So it's not in a, so now because we're the state construction department, so
right.
the statutes are the same versus one's in a statute and one's in a policy. So it that up. And then on the bonding, one of the attempts is try to get locals to be able to do more work. You know, maybe you have a local mechanical or a roofer or something. The bonding value was $7,500, and now it's going to go to $50,000.
Yeah, we certainly support that, because we know we're asking local contractors to spend a lot of extra money on really what are in today's dollars pretty small projects. You know, I mean, it's just, we wholeheartedly support that increase. It just modernizes the amounts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when we looked at those, I went to select committee. Some of them were written in the early 80s, late 70s. So that's how dated they were, and they were never adjusted. And then they were all over the board. So we said, let's just do 50,000 and keep it consistent and keep updating it. So hopefully
so let's hope that one goes through.
Yep, the next one, it's already signed. It's the quarterly payments, so it doesn't take effect your next year, but the year after that, you'll start seeing your major maintenance come in a quarterly distribution.
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm clear. So the major maintenance payment, the 75% that under the current law had been scheduled for July of 2019, that's unaffected. This would be for 2020. Is that how I understand that?
That is correct. So this July, you'll still get 75%, and then fall, you'll get the other 25%. But then after that, it's going to go to quarterly payments. So you'll want to be a little conservative moving forward. Luckily, you don't have a bunch of ones or twos, out there. So you can maybe sandbag a little bit.
No, we're going to have to sandbag some because we're generally designing the year before, we do the bid at the construction, bid for the project. So, okay, so I just wanted to make sure I was clear on the timeline. The way I read that bill was this July's payment is the same as last in terms of percentages, but it'll be July 2020's payment that goes to the quarterlies.
Exactly, yep.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
Yep, House Bill 79 is just funding out of the different accounts. House Bill 8 and it's rolled into Senate File 1 and House Bill 1. So that's the school construction projects. We'll go over those in a minute. Some indemnification provisions, trying to hold everybody accountable, is in House Bill 94. House Bill 108 on the 41-day advertisement. Now you'll have to put it on like your website. It's another thing to modernize technology, paper and all that. This says you put it on your website, because that's how most contractors get their information anyways, not the paper. Yeah. And then if something goes wrong, it goes to the bonding company. So we had a coalition group made up, and the bonding agents were in these meetings, and they said, hey, the state keeps jumping in the middle of our general contractors' issues. This says, and we're paying for a bond anyways. So this says you just put it on your website. Something goes south, it needs to go to the bonding company, not the owner getting involved and becoming the mediator.
Okay.
House Bill 152 just increases if you hit underground utilities, it went from $500 to $5,000 in penalties. A lot of excavators were just, we're an oil, gas industry, so people were just digging through utilities.
Yeah.
Senate file
Yeah, $500 the money they're going to make, they don't care as much, but 5,000 changes their tune a little.
Yeah, I was shocked when I sat in there. I didn't realize that it was more, what'd they say? It was more, it cost them more to stop and do the one stake or blue call, the one call, than to just dig through a utility and just keep going. So it's just crazy. So,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, hopefully they don't hit a gas line. Senate File 49 is about private schools having building same facilities to give the students opportunities like the public schools have. Any labor unions, which I don't think you may have up there, but if you do, there's some statutes about labors and organizations and doing contracts with them. Public records requests are making some modifications there in Senate File 57. So you got about 30 days, I think, to get the document out. They had it different, but it's
We're following that.
Yep. Let's see, school safety and security. I think this is going to go through. It's Senate File 60.
It died.
It did.
We got defeated like 43 to 14 or something.
Wow.
Oh,
we're somewhat relieved personally.
What was that?
Yeah, that was the one that required the safety and security report each year. It had certain elements and yada, yada, yada. But no, that one, this Casper Star reported today that one died 43-14 or something like that.
Okay. What was your guys' take on it? Because a lot of districts already have manuals, it sounds like, in place.
Yeah, that's where we were.
Yeah, we have it. We have it on file, and we don't really care to share it with anybody. We don't think that WDE needs to know exactly what we plan to do in an emergency, although we have a plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Now here's another one. You're talking about the professional service providers.
There you go. Yeah.
This is the one that the other one was just doing present value of today's dollars. This one
right.
into residency and it's a little more. What they're trying to do here is keep Wyoming folks employed, right? It's state funds funded Wyoming projects. Let's keep Wyoming people working. So this is an attempt to do just that. So this one will have a little bit more effect yet than the other one. It's in the same statute, but it has more raises the bar. So you have to have X amount of percentage of the work going to Wyoming architects.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that one we were a bit concerned about, simply because prior to this bill's intent, school districts can generally hire the professional services they want.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we're using CapCon funds from you guys, there's an RFQ process that needs to be followed, but you really aren't basing it on the firm's geography. You're basing it differently. This wants it to based on geography some. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this one as it goes forward. I don't know. We're kind of mixed on this one.
Yeah, we testified because in Wyoming, sometimes there's not even, for especially you guys, you're on the border, right? So you need a specialty. And it's not going to be an architect with a fleet of sub-consultants in there. It's just one guy. And he may not be in Wyoming. He may come from Billings or something. So they went and tried to make amendments to clarify, one, the size of projects. You get into 40, 50, 80, $100 million jobs, you're at a specific expertise level. And then also, if you're doing just a one type of architect or engineer, and it's very specific, then there's some exception language for that as well. So we'll see how that comes.
We kind of felt like this one was a solution in search of a problem, as they like to say down there. So.
Okay, the next one is about exchanging of state lands. Senate File 103, as you know, we report to the Select Committee, but now it's the Select Committee of School Facilities and State Construction. So it's the same members, but it got a little bit bigger. It's about 10 different people from the legislature will be sitting on there. And all the projects that funnel through our department or agency, they usually go up to State Building Commission and the School Facilities Commission. All of those will now go to this committee. So it's like a super committee of state capital projects.
Okay.
Let's see, and then the last two that are alive is the House bill and Senate file, and that's what the school projects are in. We scroll down just a little more. These are the projects that are currently in there. So the Satellite High School, Sweetwater, John C. Schiffer's up in Sheridan, so you're probably familiar with that one. Reappropriation of some modular money. We have a couple Montessori, couple charter school leases. Unanticipated funds, you're aware of how those work. The security projects, that would trickle to you, and also the major maintenance payment would go up a little bit when you get that next payment. And then we have another charter school lease at the bottom.
Okay. Sounds fantastic.
Yep. And then in the biennial budget request, as Troy mentioned, you know, the whole process is completely different now with the rules and regs being updated. But what I was thinking of doing is I still want to get our department some planning money. And I'd like to get it in a bucket form so that if we do need to do any planning, we could have it. And your item could maybe one of those projects. So Troy, my thought, and Paul, what do you guys think, is just put, I didn't see any other capital requests, but district to utilize this project as one to a budget for a planning study so that we could get a bucket. And they said, well, how big does your bucket need to be? Well, we got these items that we may need. Looks like 5 in there or something.
Yeah, you know, I think inevitably though, there's more that show up.
Yeah.
Is what the deal is because if we tie it to a list,
right,
we never know when a district is going to be the district that all of a sudden gains 20% more.
And what Paul's saying is the reason we sort of went to a bucket, it gives us a little more flexibility. We still have to report it to the legislature and everything, but it helps us for those outliers that just pop up where we can have 20, 30 grand or more to go look at something.
Yeah, I think we certainly support the idea that your department and your division of that department has flexibility and to address those things that come up. I mean, because of the planning process the way it is, you know, it's 2 years to work on something and then 2 more years to plan it and then 2. I mean, it just takes a long time. And if you tie yourself to a list that you got to presuppose, that may not even be who at all you need to help, you know, 2 years from now.
Yeah, from the time we ask the money to the time we get it, it's a year just for that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you know, probably took a year just to try to figure out what to ask for. So, you know, that kind of timeline doesn't give you much nimbleness or flexibility. So anyone ever asked us, flexibility, I don't get the point. They don't need to micromanage you too much.
Okay, does that look good?
Yeah. I mean, just even as we're talking about this, I mean, look at that 21, 22. I mean, that's not,
Right.
you know, that's 2-3 years from now.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've talked about that. Grade configurations. Okay, so so if you guys do decide to go down that, we just recommend you be proactive with WDE. And then I just kind of said, you know, if you ever do decide down the road, if you want to do a request, there is a state statute that basically tells you that WDE, if you had a grade configuration change, would consider it independent from us. They look at the educational side of it. We look at the facility side of it, and then it would have to be approved by both WDE and our department, our director specifically, in order for a grade configuration to come into effect.
So there are two unique issues that really aren't about funding from you. We just want to make you aware of globally. First of all, at the Bighorn campus, we are in discussions with the Powderhorn golf community to take our wastewater. Right now, as you may or may not know, we treat our own wastewater at the Bighorn campus.
Yeah.
At that construction time, we installed that Advantix system. So the Powderhorn is in a major state of growth. They've got to address their system. So we met with their HOA, who will be taking that on, and we're working with them and their engineers. But we're actually targeting their water development funds that pay for the design and construction of these kinds of systems. So this isn't something we would be coming to the school capital, you guys on, because of the kind of partnership and unique aspect of it. We're kind of going a different route, if that makes sense. But wanted to bring you up to speed that those conversations are happening, and that there may be some future connection between our two groups there. So.
Interesting. So how does that? So what'd you do? Pipe it over to their plant?
Correct. Yeah. So if you go back to that Google Earth image of the Bighorn campus, I can kind of give you a flavor of what they're talking about. Again, we've engaged their engineers. It's Morrison and Merrily that's doing their study. Morrison and Merrily is gonna. They're helping with us. We apply for the planning, the design funds, planning funds, and everything. So if you look, gentlemen, right now the wastewater system lives inside the bus loop. Okay, in the middle of that bus loop, you can kind of see and it's really about the leach. We use giant septic tanks for this facility, but the leach goes through those baffles that you can see the squares of or the rectangles of. And then there's a little building down at the bottom on the right. That's the UV building. That's where it finally goes before it's discharged into Jackson Creek, right where those trees are behind you. That's where our effluent goes. So what we would be doing is at the bottom southeast corner of this campus, right where that concrete meets the gravel there, we would take our effluent north along High Street and down along the highway to the east. So kind of continue east and it goes around the corner, and then right there there's a count. Don't go so far north. Go back down. Go back south. There's a county road right there, Bird Farm Road, that takes off, and then we connect right about there where that's the Powderhorns Road on the south. So we'd connect to them at about that location, maybe where the concrete, or maybe where their asphalt is. I think that's a little bit of gravel. So their main trunk line already goes about where that pond is for their own internal system. So we would just connect our campus to theirs through this process. The reason we don't go through town in Bighorn is because Bighorn is not a town, and the Powderhorn HOA has no intentions of serving all of those other residents in this system. So we would design our travel just to kind of bypass everybody. It's a long political saga in Sheridan County why this is the way it is, but we simply would become a customer of the Powderhorns HOA system.
And then pay them.
And then pay them a monthly, sewer fee like you do everybody else.
Got it.
So just wanted to make you guys aware, we're going to be pursuing funds through the water development, mechanism Wyoming has, which has these kinds of, grants available, et cetera, et cetera. So.
And who would own this line?
The Powderhorns HOA utility.
Okay. The only reason I ask is I just wanted to make sure the district wasn't going to own it so that you would be held liable for maintaining it in the future.
No, the only part we would own would be, the service lines on our campus, as you kind of just as if we were a homeowner connected to a municipal system.
Is it a pressurized line?
That's stuff we don't know the exact information on yet. So that's so we're applying for the planning study, then we'll apply, follow up with the design money, and then follow up with the construction through that those water development grants. They had very specific names that I can't tell you what they are, but this is where I let other people do their part. So, but yeah, we essentially just become a customer of that system.
Okay.
And did you say one other thing you want to talk about, or was that it?
Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of on our radar screen here. We have our bus storage facility, our bus, transportation facility in Tongue River. One of the things that's come up, obviously, is if we've now got to keep buses for 15 plus years, we may have to look forward to a bus storage facility on that Bighorn campus. Right now, we just park 4 or 5 buses in the bus loop, and keep them there. But what we may do in the next, 4 or 5 years is contemplate just a pole barn to park buses inside. So, if we've got to extend the life of the bus by 50%, we may have to park them inside to do that. But it's not at Tongue River. It's actually on the Bighorn campus.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, you got one in Tongue River, don't you?
Yeah,
We do.
Yep. We've got one in Tongue River, and we keep the vast majority of the buses there. But we have 3 route buses and 1 activity bus that we keep at Bighorn, and they just simply live in the bus loop, which is okay if I'm only going to keep a bus 10 years. But if I'm going to keep a bus 15 to 20, we may, right there where your hand is, that space, we may contemplate some, 60 by 80 something or another to, store some buses in. So.
Sure.
What are you anticipating for your source of capital for that?
Undetermined at this moment. Obviously it's not something we can put on your radar screen right now, but I don't know. We got to think through that. It probably depends on what the state ends up doing on transportation reimbursements, model moratoriums, et cetera, et cetera. But just again, wanted to keep you abreast of the things going through our head.
Okay.
So they changed the depreciation schedule, and they have to keep on from 10 to 15 years, you said?
Yeah, precisely.
And that's WDE? Or what
Yeah.
entity tells you that? Do that?
Yeah, WDE, they've been revisiting their Chapter 20 and Chapter 2 rules regarding transportation in response to the legislature, poking them with the, frozen funding and no bus purchase moratorium and blah, 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 all that stuff. So we may, if we've got to increase the life of our buses by 50%, we may just have to operationally do something different there at Bighorn.
Makes sense. Okay.
So, and it may go up above, I don't know, we just making, again, just keeping you abreast of the things that are concerning to us facility-wise and campus-wise in our world.
Yeah, we were just talking about there were 2 like that approved, one in Medicine Bow and 1 in Encampment, right? No
I
bus.
wouldn't be opposed to a 3-sided loafing shed, kind of construction to keep. It's really the sun. It's not even cold or wind or any of that. It's the sun that eats them up.
That would only cost what, 200,000-300,000? Yeah, people. You remember, Jeremy? When did you guys have modulars at any point?
We had several. Yeah.
But people would look at you and go, "Yeah, we're getting a modular. It's going to cost 200,000 to put it there," and they're looking at like the public looks at you like you're insane. What do you mean 200,000? It's just a modular. Just to set it is and they just can't. They don't get it that it needs fire alarm, communications. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. We got rid of the last one when we moved from the old Tongue River Elementary to the new one. We got rid of the last one, and those babies moved off our campus as quickly as I could possibly make it happen.
Cool.
They're money pits of all money pits.
Well, And the only thing that obviously I understand you're talking about protecting your buses with a building, but then now you've got a building that's weathering and it doesn't get replaced in every 15 years.
Right.
And then you've got associated with that.
Lots of.
Okay, anything else, district, before we close?
I don't think so. Not on my end.
No, I think we're good. Appreciate the time. I know it's long, but it's better than driving to Cheyenne. No offense, guys.
What? We thought we were living in the center of the universe. I don't live in Cheyenne, neither does Paul, or neither does Bob. Man, there's
I'm
only
stuck here.
2 out of 5. Yeah, at any rate, hey, thanks, guys. I'm going to go ahead. Staff, anything else before I shut her down?
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
You betcha. Bye.